it's Saturday night, which means it's time for Game 2 of the weekend series. Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Big Ten Plus pregame show for Game 2 of this weekend series between Michigan State and Notre Dame. Jacob Maurer alongside Brian Rector. And Brian, it's good to be with you. In Game 1 of the series between these two teams, we saw plenty of fireworks and action as Michigan State took it 8-3, 11 combined goals in Game 1. What excitement we saw yesterday.
First and foremost, it's good to be here with you too. And yeah, you're so right. It was unfathomable, the offensive output. In fact, for 8 goals in Michigan State's case, we hadn't seen that since October of 2022 against Long Island. And the Spartans got it done early and often. But Jacob, it was a 3-3 game before Michigan State really put the pedal down and floored it to the fifth.
Yeah, 5 straight goals to end it for the Spartans, winning it 8-3. And Michigan State got production on all 4 lines for the Spartans. That just shows their depth and their versatility and why they're number 4 in the country.
No, it's great. It's one of those things that you take as a luxury, and especially when you look at adding Red Savage through the portal from last year, and then this year adding Charlie Strammel from the Wisconsin Badgers, and what he's done alongside the return of Carson Dorwart. All of that depth you speak of is coming back and made a difference, particularly last night. Dorwart had 3 points.
Yeah, and as you take a look as those stats from yesterday in Michigan State's 8-3 win, Spartans out shooting the Fighting Irish by 11. But take a look at the bottom of your screen. Notre Dame with 17 blocked shots. It could have got even uglier if the Irish didn't put their bodies at the line on certain points.
That's right. You think about 41 shots, and that's a high percentage of offensive output, but 17 potential shots. And the wear and tear on the goalminder, the netminder Owen Say, is something worth watching here tonight, just in terms of his lateral quickness, his flexibility, getting post to post. And we'll see if Notre Dame can do something like that again. But I was impressed by their uniqueness in the way that they gave it up defensively.
Yeah, and Michigan State getting 3 points yesterday. That's advanced them in the Big Ten standings. Michigan State roaring all the way into second place in the Big Ten standings. Notre Dame still there in 6th place in the Big Ten standings, but they have another opportunity here tonight to get 3 more points. And they'll be looking to do just that here tonight.
That's right, and especially, too, as we look to State College, Pennsylvania, there's another matchup happening between Wisconsin, who's there at 3, and Penn State, who's at 7th in the conference. But it's such a steadily kind of worn-down league. And the one thing I want folks to notice is look at Wisconsin and take a look at how they played 7 conference games to this point so far. The rest of those squads up there, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. Wisconsin, 2-5, 7 times they played against conference foes.
Yeah, and all these teams trying to play catch up to Minnesota and Michigan State out in front. And if Notre Dame wants to do that, they have an opportunity here tonight to steal 3 points away from Michigan State on the weekend. Now, I want to get into your keys to the game. We'll start first with the Fighting Irish. What do they need to do to win game number 2?
Undoubtedly, for the Fighting Irish, it has to be blocking the puck again, right? The more that you can interrupt what Michigan State is doing on that offensive side, the better chance that you'll have. And then I think, too, for Notre Dame, if you can extend your offensive system, get beneath the goal line, and make, for Michigan State, Trey Augustine have to think about what's happening behind him in that red area against that end board on Michigan State's defensive side, that's a key.
Yeah, and that's going to be big for sure in this matchup. And to talk more about this matchup, let's welcome in 2 members of our team who have the announcing duties here today, Marin Klein and Yusuf Anaya. How are you guys doing all the way there in Munn Ice Arena?
We're good, you guys. I mean, it's already so packed in here like it was last night. Really exciting atmosphere. Going to be a fantastic game.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it in the background. It's going to be a good old hockey game. I mean, probably my favorite song to hear on a weekend.
For sure, guys. Well, I want to get into your predictions on who you think will put it into the back of the net. We'll start first with you, Marin. Who do you think in this game between these two teams has a good shot to get in the scoring column?
So I was just saying this to Yusuf. I mean, both rosters, so many guys up and down. I kind of have two picks for you guys. I'm going to go the first goal scorer to Notre Dame's Blake Biondi. He was all over the ice last night, registered 5 shots on Augustine. Just a really gritty player, and I see him getting that one in the net first. But I also think for Michigan State, at some point tonight, Toby Manisto will get his first of the season. He is so ready for it, has so many great opportunities. That fourth line has really terrorized the Big Ten opponents so far. So I think Biondi's first goal, but at some point this night, Manisto is going to light the lamp.
Well, Marin, I don't know if picking 2 was in the rules, but I guess we'll allow that to fly. So, Yusuf, I guess you have one less option on the table. Who are you going to pick, Mr. Anaya?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Jacob, because if you weren't, I was going to. I didn't come to the table with 2 in mind, but my pick is also going to be from Notre Dame. He led them with shots yesterday. Justin Janicki, he was all over the place like Blake Biondi, and I really think if he has a good night, Notre Dame may also have a good night. So that's my pick.
Well, thank you guys for your selections. I'm going to go with the Iceman for Michigan State. Has 5 goals this season, and that's Mr. Isaac Howard. He seems to always deliver for Michigan State, especially in Game 2s, and I just have a feeling he's going to find the back of the net for the Spartans. And Brian, who do you got?
I'm going with the more conventional pick. All of you went kind of against conventional wisdom. A lot of shots out there, but no goals. I'm going with Carson Dorwart, who had 2 for himself a night ago. I just think he's had a resurgence coming back from injury and is back in rhythm.
That's a good pick, Brian.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us here from Munn Ice Arena, and good luck on the call.
Thanks, you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Well, Brian, it's going to be a good one here for Game 2. Puck drop is just moments away. What are you looking for? We didn't get to Michigan State, so what are you looking for just quickly for the Spartans?
Yeah, for the Spartans, I mean, we have to continue to see their ability to build net front traffic. Can they muck it up in front of the goaltenders? And can they find a way to keep contributing on special teams, both as they get advantages on the power play, and then 2 goals shorthanded last night? I'm looking forward to seeing if they can contribute even from being a man down.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can keep those special teams going. Well, it should be a good one between these two. Game 2 is right around the corner. Notre Dame and Michigan State. College hockey right here on Big Ten Plus. Just like 2019 Tiger Woods in the Masters, we are back. Welcome in, everyone, to the first intermission report show right here on Big Ten Plus. Michigan State leads Notre Dame 2-1. I'm Jacob Maurer alongside Brian Rector. And Brian, this was a period that started slow between these two teams, but then we got a goal frenzy like we saw yesterday in the first period. The exact same score, and this one should be pretty fun.
No, it will certainly be that. We, as you say, did not see the output, but there was a surprise in goal for Notre Dame. Michigan State found a way to get traffic in front. That's how they're able to score twice. And 2-1 is where we sit for now, but man, it came alive, you felt, towards the end of that period.
And we'll take a look at those first period stats between these two teams. Michigan State dominating in the shots clock, and that's what you need to do if you're the Spartans, especially with a new goaltender in net for the Fighting Irish. They attacked him early.
That's right. It was Kemp today after we saw both Williams and Say for the entirety of the game yesterday. I wasn't sure, Jacob, to be honest with you, what that move was about, but he's been good. He's been very good. And for Michigan State, you would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an intensity on the power play compared to what we saw yesterday, which was them attacking. But as you look at it, 13 shots to 7, that's similarly to the breakdown we saw in periods 2 and 3 yesterday between these two teams, Michigan State leading that. So overall, not surprising. I would have liked to see more intensity on the power play. twice from Michigan State.
Yeah, and the Spartans with 8 shots in the first 10 minutes, just knocking on the door from Kemp, and then finally able to make him pay, and the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame responding late in that first period, but then Matt Basgall again for the Spartans, able to take Michigan State to a 2-1 lead here through 20. And you mentioned the power plays. Michigan State, they've struggled early on this season on the power play. Yesterday, it was a little bit of a different story. The Spartans converting twice on the power play, but here early on, 0 for 2.
Yeah, Notre Dame doing a really good job to conceal the inside, making it very tough for Michigan State to gain entry into that slotted area between the hash marks. And, you know, from where I sit, Michigan State has to work the corners, get in deep, like we were talking on the opposing side, in Notre Dame's favor, working behind Trey Augustine. Michigan State now, I feel, has to make sure that they're in behind Kemp, continuing to bring it from all angles.
Yeah, and we'll see what the Spartans can do here in the second period, as well as the Fighting Irish. Well, with us now is the third member of our team for this intermission show, Brad LaPlante. And Brad, you're live there from an ice arena. How's the atmosphere there for game number 2?
Jacob, as always, the atmosphere at Munn is incredible. I mean, it is so lively today. I mean, as it was last night. There's a few empty seats because men's basketball was going on. Men's basketball, you know, got the win against Bowling Green. But other than that, I mean, everybody's really excited to be here. And Michigan State has the lead 2-1 right now, so I think that they have something to smile about.
Hey Brad, you got VREC here. Quick question for you. Is Notre Dame responsible for 10 blocks in that initial period? What is your sense on the momentum? How has it swung back and forth between the two clubs?
I mean, Michigan State let in that goal, but that was really Notre Dame getting a lot of sustained pressure, and I think that they did a great job in getting that, and Michigan State, I wouldn't say necessarily did anything wrong, but, you know, Notre Dame just did a great job of getting that pressure in the offensive zone. But Michigan State has also been, they're just a really hard team to play, and as you can see, you know, Michigan State, when they gave that goal up, they answered right back. So Michigan State has the momentum right now. I think Notre Dame for a second was like, yeah, we can play with this team, but Michigan State really needs, Notre Dame needs to do something to take that momentum away from Michigan State and really be the enforcer in this game.
And Brad, I want to talk about the two goaltenders for a second. Nicholas Kemp, as you mentioned, in your open, getting the start here tonight, but facing a flurry of shots from the Spartans early. And also mention how Trey Augustine is doing, letting in 3 goals yesterday for Michigan State. Not what we're used to from the sophomore for the Spartans, allowing 1 here late in that first period, but still staying strong for Michigan State. And we'll see what your thoughts are on these two goaltenders.
Yeah, Kemp has done great. I think that it's interesting. It's his 4th game, so we don't really know what Kemp is at the college level yet. He did play with the NTDP. He was a year behind Trey Augustine, as I mentioned. So while Trey Augustine was leading Michigan State to those gold and silver medals at those 5 Nation tournaments and those international tournaments, Kemp was kind of the backup. He would play against the lesser nations, you know, some of those nations that Augustine, you know, maybe he'd get a break, and Augustine would play against the high pressure guys like Slovakia or Sweden, you know, the really good teams. So Kemp and Augustine know each other, and I bet that they really want to get kind of something at each other today.
Well, that's interesting history for sure, Brad. And thank you so much for joining us here on the first intermission report. And good luck there for the rest of the game.
Thanks, guys.
And Brian, now I want to get into what we can expect for both these teams during the second period. We'll start first with Notre Dame. We talked about the keys to the game for the Fighting Irish earlier. How are they doing for those keys so far?
So far, it's been okay. I think, you know, you see 2 power plays and you see 2 penalties that have led to those power plays. If you can clean that up and play penalty-free for the next period incoming, I think you have a better chance to tie this one at 2. But with that being said, I like the fact that they were able to let go of the body, 10 blocks. That was a big key coming into this one. Could they return after having 17 of those a day ago? And they have.
And what about the Spartans? They have a 2-1 lead here through 20. You have to like how the Spartans are playing and responding back. And the thing we know about this Michigan State team is they only get better throughout the periods. How are they doing so in your eyes, as you said, through the pregame and now after watching the first 20?
I want to harken back to actually what you said, Jacob, is speaking about Michigan State's depth. We saw Basgall get on the board for the first time in what was an absolute snipe of a shot from the left hash there. If he and others who are struggling to get things going on the offensive end of the arena, if they can keep it going and continue to put pressure on, then it's going to be a no-brainer. Michigan State has this one in control. As long as they stay in front of the shot total and as long as they introduce more athletes into that offensive depth, they'll be just fine.
And what do you think head coach Jeff Jackson is telling his Fighting Irish team right now? They just came back late in that first period to tie the game, but then the Spartans just stealing it right at the end there. How do you motivate your team to get ready for another 20 minutes of play?
You know, I think it's taking a page out of Adam Nightingale's book, which is to play smart, fast, and hard, right? Is like Notre Dame, we've seen one element of their defensive front. They will give up the body, but can they beat Michigan State to loose pucks now? Can they win the battles in the corners? And can they start to gain odd man rushes against Trey Augustine? That's what I would be absolutely pointing out is let's beat this team into the corner. Let's move fast in front of them and see if we can get through the back line of defense for Michigan State.
And what about head coach Adam Nightingale? We know during these intermission reports that he really gets on his team, and that's when you see the benefactor of the Spartans able to perform well in the second and third periods. The Spartans only get more dangerous as the game goes on. We saw that yesterday. It was a 3-3 tie there in the second, and then the Spartans went with 5 unanswered goals to close it out. What do you think Nightingale is telling his team right now?
It's interesting. Michigan State had 8 shots yesterday in the first period, 13 today. Just keep doing the same thing.
And we'll see what they have next here in the second period. Notre Dame and Michigan State. The Spartans lead 2-1 through 20. But we have another period of play next right here on Big Ten Plus. In attendance, Danny Russell, but he's on the ice instead of in the stands, and he got it going for Michigan State as they lead it 4-2 through 40 minutes in this one. And Brian, a lot more action to unpack after those 20 minutes, and it's good to be with you guys for the start of the second intermission report right here at the Com Arts and Sciences building here on the campus of Michigan State University. The Spartans lead the Fighting Irish 4-2, and Brian, another period where we saw 3 goals. That just seems to be the trend that we're seeing overall in the series.
No, it absolutely is. And it's a steady dose of offense and scoring. For Notre Dame, it became harder to come by the defensive side. They only had 1 block in that second period. You know, I'm taken aback, reminded of a quote from head coach Adam Nightingale, Michigan State last year, who said it's really hard to sweep in college hockey. Michigan State on the brink of that, 20 more to determine.
Yeah, Gavin O'Connell scoring for Michigan State right away, then Ian Murphy responding for the Fighting Irish. But then, as we mentioned in the open of this intermission report, Danny Russell, the birthday boy, propelling the Spartans to a 2-goal lead here as you take a look at those stats through 2 periods. Michigan State outshooting the Irish 23-17, but Brian, it's really a lot more like that. The Irish getting a lot of those shots in the 4 minutes that they had the extra man.
That's right. And on the flip side of that, it's a scenario where Notre Dame set out to play a clean second period, no penalties. They did just that. And I'm really excited and inspired by the way that they responded, still down 2, but did what they had to do to hang around.
And Brian, it's another game where we see those block shots in favor of the Irish, just putting their body on the line and making sure this game doesn't get too far out of hand, but still it's the Spartans controlling possession and having the most opportunities in this one.
That's right. And I like what you said about being able to control it, right? And having it in hand. That's kind of the sense that we've gotten the whole way. I think one of the things that I look at for Notre Dame and say, ooh, man, that's a trend that you want to break, is 9 of the 17 shots having come from both Biondi and then as well with Hunter Strand. That's 5 and 4 respectively. So if I'm Notre Dame, and if I'm in that locker room, I'm saying who else can be offensive output? Who else can get a shot on Trey Augustine?
And Cole Knuble coming into this game for the Fighting Irish. He was second in the Big Ten in points, but he was made unavailable this weekend by the Fighting Irish. He serves on their top line for Notre Dame. So now the Irish trying to find people to step up. And you mentioned it, Brian. It could be a big problem for Notre Dame as they finish out the final 20 in this one.
Yeah, it certainly has been a conversation so far, and it's worth mentioning. I mean, Notre Dame is doing a really good job, led by Danny Nelson in the face-off circle. That's something that we had touched on at the outset of this one, is could Michigan State keep the numbers high with Mikey D'Angelo particularly, who was 12 for 15 in the circle yesterday. He's 6 of 9 coming alive, but winning that battle to this point is Danny Nelson. The Irish have found a way to keep it in their zone, but the shots have to come.
Yeah, and now let's flip the page over to Michigan State. We mentioned in the pregame that the Spartans have a lot of depth on this team, and we see another night where the Spartans get production from all 4 lines, all 4 of their goals coming from each of their lines in this one. Just a testament to how deep this team is.
It's pretty unique to consider that Michigan State can throw any line combination of centers and wingers out there and be comfortable with the fact that they will put the puck in the back of the net. And I just am inspired by the fact that they continue to do it night in and night out. I mean, we're in a threshold during the year where 10 games in, we wonder if we're going to see the production slow at all from any of these line groups. But so far, the combinations are staying steadfast, and it feels like equity of opportunity throughout the roster.
Yeah, and looking at this second period between both teams, let's go over to the third member of our team, Brad LaPlante. He's there at Munn Ice Arena. Brad, it's good to see you once again. What were your initial thoughts of that second period?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been back and forth. Notre Dame has definitely had a better game today. I think the goaltending got away from them last night, but they're definitely staying in the game. Michigan State still has the momentum, but Notre Dame, you saw in the second period, just had a lot of sustained pressure. Michigan State it was hard for them to combat that, and so I think that Michigan State did a great job rebounding, but Notre Dame's definitely still in this game, and Michigan State needs to figure out ways to not let them back in the game.
Brad, you got B-Rec here again. You just hit on something that's tremendously important, which is Michigan State cannot take the foot off the gas pedal. Can you tell me anything about the body language you've seen from the green and white? Are they staying engaged and active as we head into the third?
Yeah, I mean, for a little bit, it seems like they were caught flat-footed when Notre Dame had all of that pressure. And it was interesting, too, because Michigan State had 4 consecutive minutes of a man disadvantage. And that was, I thought that Notre Dame was going to at least not level it, but get back into the game. And so, yeah, it's the body language from Michigan State, they were caught flat-footed, but now I think that they definitely rematched that urgency that Notre Dame was showing, and so I think we still have a really competitive game.
And Brad, we're looking at this game right now. There's a lot of implications for both teams. We'll start though with Notre Dame because this means a lot. They're starting the conference season so far 1-4. A loss here tonight, down by 2 already through the first 2 periods, could put them at 1-5 in the conference. How big of a loss could it be for Notre Dame, and how big is this third period for them to try to get back into it?
I mean, it's huge because, well, first of all, Michigan State is the number 4 team in the country. So let's not be big task for Notre Dame, who on paper should not be in the same class as Michigan State anyway. But I mean, in this league, anybody can beat anybody, and so you do have to show up to these types of games. Next weekend, Notre Dame is going to play Minnesota, and Minnesota is the number 3 team in the country. So that doesn't necessarily bode well for for Notre Dame. And then Notre Dame has the unique opportunity of going to Northern Ireland in Belfast to play in the Friendship Four with Merrimack, Harvard, and Boston University. And that is going to be interesting because Harvard just beat Quinnipiac, who was ranked number 15 in the country. So another top 20 team that Harvard, like I said, anybody really can beat anybody in college hockey. And so it just doesn't get any easier for the Fighting Irish.
Well, great analysis there, Brad. And I must say, I love your tie and suit combination here today. It just pops up the ice, and really good job dressing that up here tonight. And we'll hear more from you from the post game. So thank you so much, Brad, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
And Brian, now I want to get into what do these teams need to do in the final 20 minutes of play. Michigan State up by 2, trying to keep that momentum going and stay undefeated in Big Ten play.
For Michigan State, you need to keep winning in the faceoff circle, without a doubt. We touched on it, and we talked about whether it would be the likes of Nelson for Notre Dame, who continues to win in that circle and extend possessions. But for Michigan State, if you can keep possession, if you can have a crisp passing system, and limit the turnovers and potential for odd man rushes and numbers headed the other way for the Irish, then you're looking pretty good.
And what about for Notre Dame? They're down by 2. They're kind of in desperation mode right now to try to play catch up with Michigan State. And they call them a Fighting Irish for a reason. They've been fighting back into this game, just trying to claw their way back, but it can be difficult against the number 4 team in all the land.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, as we take a look here, we'll kind of see what's happening, at least for both of these squads, when they get the opportunity to put the puck in the net. I want to see, for Notre Dame, traffic in front of Augustine, and I want to see them continue to expand. We've talked about it a few different times, but can they go from half board to half board? Can Notre Dame mobilize each of the point men to get things on net and in front of Augustine? That'll be the biggest challenge, I think, as we continue on here.
Well, it was an entertaining first 40 minutes, and we'll see what the final 20 have in store. 3 points up for grabs here today, and we'll send it back over to Munn Ice Arena with Marin Klein and Yusuf Anaya. Third period coming up next between Notre Dame and Michigan State on Big Ten Plus.
Thanks.
Saturdays are for the boys, or in this case, the Spartans. Michigan State taking all 6 points on the weekend as they defeat the Fighting Irish in Game 2, 4-3. Welcome in, everyone, to the Big Ten Plus post-game show. Jacob Maurer alongside Brian Rector. And Brian, I want to hear your initial thoughts on game number 2.
Yeah, it's beginning to start to feel like a really special run that we're witnessing for Michigan State. It's early to say that, but they've been nothing short of impressive. And I think, as we're watching them kind of head off the ice there after a contentious last couple minutes, there were a lot of checked boxes overall. The game got tighter in the third period, not only in the blocking category, but the face-offs and the shots too. More to be expected. As we've said, it's hard to sweep. Michigan State checks enough boxes to win here.
And right now, Brad LaPlante with our star player of the game, Nicholas Andrews. He had 2 assists in this one for Michigan State, showing out big for the Spartans, a game where a lot of Michigan State players played really well, Brian.
No, that's right. And as you look up and down the score sheet, it was pretty smooth for Michigan State in the entirety of this one. I was impressed by the ability to win in the face-off circle. It was not only Mikey D'Angelo, who we saw yesterday. He was 6 for 10 in that circle, but then as well, Charlie Strammel was 11 of 15 in the face-off circle. For Michigan State, that is somewhere where they can really begin to put teams away, especially operating with the lead. The longer that you possess the puck and the more that you win in the offensive zone, in the defensive zone, it's really good.
And the Spartans moving to 4-0 in the Big Ten Conference. How big of a win was it for Michigan State to get another sweep on the weekend? Notre Dame, a tough team to play against. It's always tough when you play some Big Ten hockey, but Michigan State getting it done here again in Game 2.
Oh, it was huge. It was the biggest. It's what they had to do. And I think that's illustrated through what we saw in State College with Wisconsin and Penn State. Wisconsin finds a way to get it done in a just barn burner 6-3 match. That's one that stands out to me in the Big Ten. And look at Lindenwood pushing Ohio State to the brink. That is concerning, and one thing I think that as you see the sweep happen, and if you're Michigan State being excited about where you've been, for good reason, Lindenwood coming into Munn Ice Arena in the next couple weeks now, and having just pushed Ohio State in such a way that maybe we didn't expect. That one finished 3-2 tonight.
And what about the opportunity for the Fighting Irish? They now fall to 1-5 in conference play in the Big Ten. How did they move on from here? They knew it was going to be tough against number 4 Michigan State, but you wanted to get some couple points here on the weekend to try to propel that momentum for their season, but they just couldn't get it done here tonight.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, we saw all 3 goaltenders this weekend for Notre Dame. And I think, you know, we started to see a little bit more of a definition of who the second option would be and maybe even the third option for the Irish. But how deep do they run? I think that will have to be sorted out. Kind of a war of attrition as we move into practice with the Irish.
Yeah, no Cole Knuble this series for Notre Dame. It was going to be tough no matter what, but they're unable to get a point as Michigan State sweeps the weekend. And let's take a look at those final stats in this game between these two teams. Michigan State dominating in shots once again. Notre Dame catching up with that empty net towards the end, but it really felt like Spartan possession throughout.
No, it did. And a lot of what happened today was that after the first period, Michigan State had 2 power plays in that first, not another one. I was so impressed by Notre Dame's ability to shore up things, to play clearly, play concisely, and leave the chippiness on the side for the last 2 periods.
Yeah, and you see that the saves in there. Both goaltenders were outstanding in this one. Kempf getting one of his first starts in this season, only a freshman for Notre Dame, but he faced a lot of good players from this Michigan State roster. He still held strong, but also gave up 4 goals, and the Irish ultimately falling by 1 in this one.
Yes, indeed.
And we'll toss it over now. I think Brad LaPlante has our post-game interview, and we'll see if we do.
You had 4 assists in this game. You had 2 assists in this game and 4 assists over the.
Thank you so much, Brad, for that post-game interview. Nicholas Andrews, outstanding for Michigan State, and the Spartans were outstanding this weekend, earning the weekend sweep against Notre Dame. Michigan State wins it 4-3 in Game 2. Well, some thank yous need to go out to our producer, Jason Laplow, our director, Briggs Maloney, as well as the people here in studio, Jack Irvin, alongside Jordan Ciperin. I'm Jacob Maurer, alongside Brian Rector. And Brian, it was a fun one here tonight. A lot of action between these two teams, but Michigan State coming up on top.
That they do. That they do. And I was so impressed, Jacob, I really was, with how they were able to continue on, right? This one was tougher. It was harder to come by. It was half of the offensive output we saw one night earlier, but it didn't matter. Michigan State found a way to just keep their head above water enough, and we got a couple more weeks before we see Lindenwood back here at Munn Ice Arena.
And it should be a fun one to watch this Michigan State season, as well as Notre Dame. Both these teams looking to continue their season in stride. Spartans win Game 2 4-3. And thank you so much for joining us here on Big Ten Plus, saying good night from East Lansing.